All right, well, we'll get started here. I appreciate everybody taking some time out of their day and coming over here. Talk a little bit about the supply chain and how it continues to evolve. Um, we are going to look at it from a side of reusable packaging, material handling products, and how they can really impact some of those major trends that are going on in the world, and really help us promote reusable packaging and ways that we can continue to grow and make the world a better place in a lot of different ways. A little bit before we get started, my name is Bob Peterson. I'm a Vice President of Sales and Marketing for Formal. I've been with them just about 6 months, but good or bad, I've been in the industry for about 18 years, a couple of different stops, and I can promise you this industry has changed a ton since I started, and I probably will change a ton again in the next 5 years, and then 5 years after that, it'll change again. So it's continuing to evolve, and really just want to talk about a couple of the big trends that are going on that really impact reusable packaging and how reusable packaging can really help with address these trends. I don't think anybody's surprised to see these three trends up there. Are any of these a surprise to anybody dealing in this space, right? Automation, you can't help but walk around the show in any of the halls, and you just see so much more automation than you did even 5 years ago, much less 10 or 15 years ago. And it really gets into how your supply chain works, right? Automation changes how the supply chain works, and that plays on the packaging and the material handling equipment that you use. Sustainability, it's gotten to a point now where when I started in this industry, sustainability was probably the 5th bullet point on your customer's list of things that were important to them. Now I feel like it's first, second, maybe it's third, but how sustainable your supply chain is also plays into how successful your supply chain is. And so I really think the sustainability piece plays into how successful your supply chain is. And on the last one there, reshoring kind of blows your whole supply chain up, right? It's basically starting all over again, and really opens up the opportunities for shorter loops, shorter, smaller supply chain, which really ties into the opportunity for reusable packaging again, right? When a package has to cross the ocean, getting things back to where it starts from is very difficult to justify. But when you're all on the same continent, it becomes much, much easier. I forgot to mention on the first slide, I have 2 daughters, a 14-year-old and a 10-year-old, so I am very used to being interrupted. So if you have a question, don't save it till the end. Raise your hand. We'll get going right away. So yes, please just interrupt if you got a question or a comment or anything to discuss. These are much more fun when they're a discussion or an interaction versus just listening to me talk for 20 minutes. So before we get into the trends, I did want to talk a little bit, take one of my 6 slides and tell you and educate you about Formal. Just with a quick show of hands, how many of you are familiar with Formal? All right, so a couple, but a lot of first impressions. That's great. I have an opportunity here to really get you as excited as I am about joining the company a couple months ago, and no reason to not be any further. Formal, we've got over 50 years of experience in this space. Started with thermoforming. Over the years, have added in metal capabilities. So really have an opportunity to go and offer some unique solutions, not only with plastic, but also combining metal into those supply chain solutions. We've got a lot of different capabilities. We have a lot of long-time customers, so we've really been able to build and hold on to some of those relationships. But really what our core niche is really coming in and helping you develop a custom solution. You know, what issues do you have in your supply chain and your manufacturing process that you need help solving? And that's really where we can come in, be those experts. We've learned from lots of different customers, lots of different opportunities that we've gone through and done that evaluation with, that we can bring unique solutions to you and make you more successful in your job. Real quick on a couple of the capabilities that Formal has is we do thermoforming, as I mentioned, thin gauge all the way up to the largest thermoforming equipment in the United States. So we can do a 8x16 sheet all in one piece. But our core expertise is really twin gauge thermoforming. And those of you that are knowledgeable about that, you understand the complexities that it takes to be able to go and do that twin gauge thermoforming. We also get into metal, as I mentioned. We have a full steel process, do all of our own welding, power coating, a number of different ways to cut and fabricate the product, and get into metal racks. Lastly, and really what helps us in the custom side of these projects is we do our own tooling and die. So we can manufacture and build our own prototype tooling. We can do things that allow us to be part of that process the entire way through as you evolve into a new solution. Just real quick, a couple of quick pictures across the bottom there. If you start on the left, it's a twin gauge thermoform pallet. I think everybody has probably seen those. You can see a bunch of them out on the floor. The second one from the left is a parts tray that then can turn and nest, and then it has a top cap and a pallet. The middle there is a metal cart engaged with some thermoform trays, so it's an opportunity for us to use both of our technologies to really come up with an optimal solution. The second from the right there shows some of those capabilities of size. And then the last one there is a metal rack with some part trays in it. Again, another kind of format there where we combine both metal and thermoforming. So like we said, I think everybody is well aware that automation is taking hold and continues to evolve and grow. And really just the idea that not only is it helping us from a standpoint of driving cost out, but with the way the labor force is today, not only is it extremely expensive, but it's extremely hard to find. You invest in automation, that robot is there 24/7, right? Where it's harder and harder to fill first shift, much less second shift, sometimes third shift on all of those different pieces. If you look at that chart there that's on the left, it goes back to 1990. And really what it shows there in the blue is the increased cost of labor and how labor has really increased since 1990 all the way up to 2015, and that's continued since the 2015. But the red across the bottom is really how automation and robots specifically have become more and more cost effective. They've actually come down in price. They can do more things. There's a lot more opportunity there to justify adding robots into your supply chain and into your manufacturing process. So where this ties back into packaging, reusable packaging, and where Formal can help you out here, is within all those robots, they're not just doing the simple things anymore, right? With a robot versus a human being in that spot in their supply chain, a human being can maybe alter a tray if it comes down the line a little bit differently. It can notice damage or throw out a bad corrugated box if there's something in there that isn't going to fit or slow down your process down the road. That robot doesn't do that, right? That robot needs a very consistent package. It doesn't do well with wood shards or a little bit of dust from corrugated boxes. You need a very consistent, clean package to go through and make sure your automation is really up and running as much as you wanted it to justify those initial costs. And the exciting part about it is from what we've seen when you go to automation, when you go to reusable packaging, those uptimes on your equipment lines actually goes up as well, right? The first time you send something through your equipment is when you have delays and stops and starts. Well, if you're always starting something new through there, you kind of continually run into that. But once that reusable packaging has gone through, made the loop, keeps coming back and through, you start to eliminate some of those slowdowns and those stoppages. So you can actually increase your production as you go through the overall process of manufacturing. Moving into sustainability, and like I mentioned before in the introduction, continues to gain more and more speed. And everybody looks at it in different ways of what sustainability really means. And I think it really needs that opportunity to step back and look at sustainability of the entire supply chain versus just, let's take material out of this packaging, or if we make this step more efficient, because there's a lot of different ways that supply chain can impact your sustainability score, the overall impact that you're having on the environment. I think everybody can, in my top bullet there, where are my screens? There they are. The top bullet there really talks about make it once and use it many times, right? So you see that dairy case down there in the middle, and that dairy cases have been around since the 50s, right? You see them everywhere. They're behind every grocery store, every gas station. They're in everybody's garage because they make really good containers for stuff. But just think of the dairy industry was shipping everything in a brand new box every time, right? So they can use those cases. As long as the fork truck doesn't run that case over, that case can last 20 years, 30 years, making dozens of trips a year back and forth from the dairy to the store. And so from a sustainability standpoint, that's a great story. The other advantage of a lot of plastic products, whether it's thermoform, injection molded, or otherwise, is those products can be recycled at the end of their use and turn right back into that crate again. So if you do run that case over with a fork truck, it can go back through the process, be ground, put right back into the next dairy case to replace the last one. So that from a sustainability story, it's a great end-of-life story as well, because it keeps going right back into the product. The other piece that sometimes gets lost, and a number of times I've had conversations with customers, and it comes up that we didn't really think about it that broadly. But what is packaging designed to do? It's designed to safely transport the product through the supply chain to get it to where somebody's going to buy it. But if you continually take material out of your packaging, or you continually look to revamp or change things, use less, and because of those changes, your damage rates go up on your products. Now you're shipping a bunch of damaged product that you can't sell that ends up having to be replaced on the shelf by another product that has to go through that entire thing, has to be made again. It was talked about at the beginning, is that's where a lot of the carbon footprint can come from, is during that manufacturing process. But if that has to ship back through again, you've now just offset all of the savings that you did by minimizing the packaging. And I'm not up here trying to say that everybody should not take plastic out of their packaging, or to not take weight out of their packaging to improve fuel efficiencies or anything like that. I just really think that it needs to be taken at a holistic look. And there's got to be an understanding that one change at this part of the supply chain can have dramatic effects and impacts further down the line where you didn't really intend to. It might actually work a negative into what you were trying to achieve in the first place. The last bullet I have on here really is a newer opportunity that's kind of come to light, especially as a lot of CPGs have been pushed to find more and more ways to use their waste and not put it in the landfill, or find ways to reuse some of their materials. In packaging, it's that opportunity that it doesn't come in contact with the final product, right? The PET in this bottle is going to come in contact with the water. But if I can recycle this PET because it was a scrap and turn it into something else, maybe the pallet, maybe a corrugated box, or not corrugated box, a bulk bin container, or some other form of packaging that doesn't need that level of clarity or virgin use, is another way to take that waste and turn it into something that doesn't end up in the landfill. The last point I have here, and I'll explain the chart there on the right. So if you go back to 2010, coming out of the recession, this starts to track the amount of manufacturing jobs announced each year in North America, and adds in the foreign direct investment into the jobs that are being created in North America. And as you can see, kind of a slow climb coming out of the recession, but really once you got into 2019 and everyone's experienced the supply chain disruptions of what we went through with COVID, it's really spiked and continued to take off over the last couple of years, to a point where those supply chains that were built and optimized for 2018 and that kind of a global supply chain are really being disrupted and changing. Not only does that change where now the product, instead of coming from a port, is coming into a plant in Kentucky, it's being made somewhere in North America. So that means not only the finished good trip is different, but all of the inbound materials and raw materials that go into making that good, its components, if it's a complicated product, all of the different things, that entire supply chain needs to be looked at again for opportunities to optimize, right? You've got a lot of opportunities that when you go through the math, using a collapsible container Doesn't make sense if it's got to cross the ocean. But now if that product isn't crossing the ocean, you got a brand new opportunity to go through and set yourself up in different packaging options to go through and be successful and really make your supply chain more successful.